You are now listening to a member of the Disney Podcast family. Head over to Disney Podcast Family on Instagram to see all the latest posts for this show and links to other great Disney podcasts.
Melissa Pilgrim is our choice for your next Disney vacation. You can reach her at amagicalpilgrimage@gmail.com. We thank her for her support.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejados de las puertas.
Here's a wild ride in the
When invisibility travels, doors change.
So today on Miles from Main Street, I am here without Mikhailo, as I had mentioned on the podcast earlier this week, but that's okay. We are going to be talking about retheming Tom Sawyer Island at the Magic Kingdom, and I may even touch on some news. We're going to talk to Stuart Boyles, though. He's coming in to join us, and he is from Welcome to Level 7 podcast. Stuart, thank you so much for helping me out tonight.
No problem, Brian. No problem. Good to be here.
So we are going to talk about retheming Tom Sawyer Island. But before we do that, please share, like, and subscribe to the podcast. It'll help you know when we are going live again. And it'll also help you to get new episodes, which we will be putting out episodes on Tuesdays. And we always put out we're trying to do live episodes on Thursdays at 7 o'clock. So come join us on Thursday. Listen on Tuesday if you don't get the chance. It'd be great to have you join us. All right, yeah. Stuart. How are you doing?
I am good. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing all right. A little bit of technical difficulties. I'm sorry we're late. My browser was being funny. I couldn't find the go live button. Like, that's kind of odd.
You know, it happens to the best of us. It really does. Technology is not the easiest thing in the world, and you'd think it would be with how much we live in it. But at least it wasn't a freak snowstorm randomly.
Well, I don't know that this was a freak snowstorm, but I was surprised when it was snowing this morning. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. What surprises me the most is I'm much farther north than you are, and we didn't have hardly any. I mean, normal for this area, but like not getting hit hard like it was down south.
Yeah, down here in Green Bay, they were saying that we would get a foot, but because of something called compression, because the temperature was actually above freezing, we didn't have a foot of snow on the ground, but it was still pretty heavy and thick. And you know what? I didn't shovel my driveway.
Isn't that nice? Nice when it just melts off and you're like, oh, good.
Yeah, I saw some driveways that they needed to do something, but I guess the amount of driving we did took care of it. So yeah.
And the fact that it wasn't, 10 below, right?
Right. Yes.
and it's not going to freeze to the ground, and then you also have to then shovel that, and that's no fun at all.
No, when it's going to become ice, that's never good. So
no.
All right. In the minutes that we are spending before I hit live, you mentioned Lorcana. You and I have been getting into Lorcana, and it's been an interesting trip.
Yeah. My wallet is hurting a lot from
mine too. Yes.
It's not, you know what? Here's the funny thing. Well, you may remember this. You were there when I bought the first Lorcana cards. Do you know that?
I was.
Okay.
I remember you asking about it.
Yeah. And then I have literally bought every starter pack of the different variations. And that has been... there's not a lot of money. I think I spent more money on the Lego 100 minifigs, but I got all those. But now I have some Lorcana cards, so that's fun.
Yeah, we each bought and when I say we, my wife and I each bought a starter deck,
Hmm.
and I bought mine from the first chapter and she got hers from Floodborne,
Hmm.
and we started playing, trying to figure it out, and it was very apparent very quickly that those starter decks don't have enough draw action. You need more cards because by the time you get to like turn 4 or 5, you're out of cards. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we went and I started buying boosters almost right away because that's the fun part, is buying boosters and
Hmm.
seeing if you can pull a legendary, right? So we bought some cards here and there, and I started researching how to upgrade our decks a little bit, and realized quite quickly that I need to stop buying the booster packs and buy singles on eBay. So I went and spent about $30 on eBay, got 30 cards or so, because you can get them anywhere from like 80 cents up to $2 for these
Oh,
little
wow.
cards. And I'm not talking like the big expensive ones
Yeah.
people are trying to sell out there, but I was able to get some cards and upgrade our decks on a budget, and now it's getting a little bit more fun to play this game. Like there's a little more strategy involved.
Hmm.
You're getting the cards, like you're able to draw cards now, and you're not running out of cards. So you're able to put a plan together, kind of like if anyone's familiar with Pokemon, that's what Lorcana is. So, Stuart, have you gotten to that point yet?
Well, I I hesitate to say this. I don't think I did it the budget conscious way. I think I just bought too many cards. But so what I find is my oldest and I, we play, not weekly, but I try to force them into playing, you know, when I'm home, right? And that's always fun because they wipe the floor with me. And what I find is they've figured out like what card they like, what card they use. I'm still kind of trying to fumble things around, um, and see how things work. I think I get kind of sidetracked by the pretty pictures. I'm going to be honest because the artwork is amazing,
Yes, it is.
and so I feel like maybe I'm just like, oh, shiny. It's like, okay, let the kid win, and I'll be fine. We're having fun.
So I don't mind throwing out there Gnome Games here in Green Bay. I've
Hmm.
talked to Pat a few times, and really good guy, really good business. I love to give him my business whenever I can. And I was talking to him a few weeks ago, and maybe it was more than that, but I was talking to him, and he said that Disney Lorcana is the first Disney license to allow them to create their own Disney art. And that blew my mind.
Hmm.
Like we've got a
Hmm.
100-year-old company here, and this is the first time they're letting somebody make their own art, and it's beautiful.
Well, yes, and I'm sure that they have some sort of like they're allowing it, but there's also got to be some sort of process to like verify it because they're not going to put Mickey Mouse doing something that Mickey Mouse wouldn't do. If you look at the cards, all of the cards seem accurate to their character. You know, there's the Winnie the Pooh that's wearing a cape and he's like the Honey Ranger or something like that. It's an amazing card and it's right in line with what Winnie the Pooh is. And so I got to think that there's some quality control there. It's not just let's just make our own art. It's got to be, controlled.
I'm sure
So,
there is. I know like Lowe's has done a lot of Haunted Mansion stuff recently, and I know there's a
mhm.
long process as part of that license for Disney to okay it. It's hard for me to fathom them approving 200 and some odd pieces of art every 3 months, but maybe there's some piece to that. I don't know, but they're
Well,
doing a great job.
yeah, I mean, regardless of however the process is, Ravensburg is catching the right vibe as well as some amazing art, and whatever the process is, I'm here for it. And I'm glad it's happening because that's I wasn't a big Magic the Gathering guy, player. I was more into the tabletop stuff, but the artwork in this is far exceeding the gameplay for me, and that's sad.
I'm really enjoying the gameplay. The first time I played against my son, he's 19, wiped the floor with me. Like I was stomping around mad that night.
Well, someday we keep talking about it, but someday we should try to figure out how to play, over Zoom or something. And
I've been thinking about that. I think 2 cameras for each of us on Zoom, and we'll have like 2 accounts attached to the Zoom, whatever. Anyway,
yeah, it might.
So
that might work.
That might work. One on the hand, one on the head. Like just so we can still converse. Something to try.
Yeah, we'll have to figure it out. But I think it'd be fun, and I think that's that's the big thing. I've been talking to my local game store, and he just opened, and he's really new, and but he's like, Lorcana is such a huge business for us. And then I guess somebody just released a Star Wars trading game, which is similar to Lorcana and similar to Magic and all of those others. And he's just printing money at this point. So I'm glad that that's sort of been a resurgence, especially in the small town we live in. There's not a whole lot of those type of geek type nerd stores, and I'm glad to see that he's around and still moving. So
yeah. So I'm still fighting a cough, and it keeps coming on. So I apologize if you see me muting or going quiet all of a sudden. But
that's fine. That's fine. I am not afraid to talk, and apparently not afraid to even talk into the internet live. So, yeah.
All right. So I wanted to touch briefly on some of the news that came out in the last couple of days. We are getting Tales of the Empire, which is some new Star Wars content that looks incredible to me. I love that they're grabbing onto the Acolyte right now, and they're going all dark side. Like May 4th, we're getting Tales of the Empire, and it looks terrific already. So what do you think of that?
I just saw the announcement today or yesterday or something, but I haven't watched the trailer. But first off, I think Star Wars Animated is an untapped or barely scratched the surface gold mine that they should be latching on to pretty good, right? I thought Rebels was amazing. I love watching the Bad Batch, although I'm behind. I thought Ahsoka, the Clone Wars, and then to Rebels, and then into Ahsoka was a very awesome transition that I would like to see more of. I'm a big it's all connected kind of person, and so when we can do one show into another show into another show into another show and expand the universe, that's what I'm here for. So I would love to see more animated stuff.
Yeah, and we're getting it. And I think like this Tales of the Empire was kind of a surprise to me. I didn't hear anything about it before the announcement. So
yeah, I had no idea it was coming either.
Yeah. So I hope we get more like that as the year goes on. I know that animation can be cheap to put together quick and throw out on Disney Plus. A lot cheaper than a live action show. So
yes, the problem is the lead time, right? So animation takes twice or 3 times as long to actually make, whereas a movie or a TV show you can pop out relatively quickly, provided you don't have a whole huge amount of reshoots, which is
true.
Which the Welcome to Level 7 is actually a Marvel podcast that I and a couple of other people do. And one of the things we've been talking about is the mass amounts of reshoots that the TV shows have had to deal with in recent memory. Secret Invasion, we're talking to you. So that's what ends up being ballooning that cost. So if you can actually you write a script, you produce the script, and you finish the script, the lead time and the cost is much lower than doing animation. Well, now there's animation that's not so well, and that can be done very quickly and sometimes cheaply. But regardless, we're talking about Disney, right? Which is the biggest, most formidable animation studio on the planet. So yeah, they should be able to turn around something pretty quickly, I would think.
You would hope.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're pulling Moana 2 out of nowhere and putting it out this fall. So, I mean, it seems like they're doing something here that they can create something quickly.
My hope is that it's just a good story, regardless of the, one of the things that makes Rebels and The Bad Batch and even the first Moana, the reason and let's face it, all of Disney, including the dark time, right? Including the time that, for better or for worse, Black Cauldron is still a pretty good story, right? Sorcerer and the Stone's a really fun story. All of these are stories, and they're well told and well done. And that's what we need, not more of, you can't just throw a lightsaber out in there and call it Star Wars.
Right. That's true. Okay. So I'm going to throw these two things kind of together.
Okay.
But it's kind of park news. They gave us a little bit of a, here's what Imagineering's been up to for the Animal Kingdom Dino Land redo. We know from last week that some permits have been filed, some trucks are on site, and there's some work beginning on Dino Land. Nothing official yet, but the last thing we've heard was it's going to be South America, Encanto, Indiana Jones. And they kind of doubled down on that today with a video from the Imagineers saying, we went to South America and did some research, right? So the other piece of this that I'm going to throw in there that we can just talk about it all together is that they also put out a video today about Tiana and the new animatronics that are going to be in the ride. So two things kind of going together. Thoughts on that before I get to my next point?
I love Dino Land. I've loved Dino Land for a long time. What I really liked about Dino Land was the dig pit. When one of the first times we went to Animal Kingdom, my son was tiny, and he sat in the dig pit for what felt like hours. And that to me was really interesting because you could uncover all the dinosaurs. So if they're going to go to South America and have Indiana Jones there, I'm all for it. I think that's great. I would love to see a little bit more inclusion of other types of South American type, history. We have Mexico and Epcot, and there's a couple of other, South American, Hispanic, not to lump all of South America into Spanish, but there's some more South American type stuff in Epcot, but there's not a lot anywhere else. And so I'm for more representation. And I think Dino Land's a good place to do it. I loved the Dino Land, beachfront type of thing, but at the end of the day, it was kind of stale and it needed a refresh. So
yeah, I would agree with that. Especially when they took Primeval World out, like it kind of deadened the whole area. And
it was super hot. That was the other thing. If they can figure out a way to cool that area down, they will get mass amounts of people.
In an already hotter than the rest park. Right?
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think the popular thought out there is that Indiana Jones is going to take over Dinosaur,
which I don't like. I'm going to be honest with you because I grew up in Southern California, right? And part of what I trolled deer is that there is an Indiana Jones ride in Disneyland, and it is not anywhere else. And I know Dinosaur is exactly the same ride mechanic. I get it. But if they're going to make Dinosaur Indiana Jones, I don't like that.
I don't like it either, and I hope that the plan is to do something else. And I know that the thought comes from exactly what you said, where they've got the same ride system, right? So they can just easily change it over. But hopefully that's not the case, and they have some other thought in the process.
One of the things that makes the Indiana Jones movies so iconic is that he does different things. Yes, he always fights Nazis, but he fights them in different places.
Right. Yeah.
So if we could do something Indiana Jones that's not the same ride, I'm for that, as long as it's done well. And the one thing Disney does not do is not do something well.
Right.
So
I've heard a lot of complaining over the years that, even with Splash Mountain, like people get worried about, oh, they're taking away this great ride.
yeah,
I have full faith in the Imagineers. They will come up with something tremendous.
yes, always have,
So,
always will, and
exactly.
that's, and not to foreshadow anything, but that might be a conversation that we retouch later in this conversation.
Yes. All right, so I was throwing in together the Tiana animatronics on top of it. These things look amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the whole idea of animatronics was to allow performances and not have to pay performers. And I don't mean that pejoratively, right? I want the performers that we have to be performing, right? I love parades. I think those are great, and I love all of the open performances that we have. But you can't have a person play Tiana for how long, all day long,
Doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah,
and
you still want that person to be. You still want that character to be in that ride. So I think an animatronic, anybody is great. And then I love how they do things like slip Johnny Depp into Pirates of the Caribbean, or stuff like that. I love when they do that. And so this gives you the opportunity to do that.
Right. And I mean, not even to that level, but like I'm looking at these and they've got to be A1000s at this point.
Right.
Right. Like, for those of you that may not know the levels of animatronics, like there's the A1s, and that was Lincoln, right? He could stand up, sit down, move his head, move his arms around a little bit. And then we got the 10s, the 100s. And I believe, I'm blanking right now, there was a new one. I think the Shaman of Songs is a 100. Whereas Hondo in Millennium Falcon, he's a 1000. And you can just see the fluid movements between them. And I say that the Shaman of Songs, I highlight that because she's amazing. She moves like a 1000, but she's not at that level. So these guys that are going to be in Tiana, like you watch the video of Lewis moving around, or Mama Odie, like they just look amazing. They're just fluid. They're like take them off of the page of the movie and throw them in. It's just we've gotten to the robots taking over just about.
Well, and if you've ever read the Kingdom Keeper series, that's a scary thought. I'm not sure if I like that idea. Come to think of
it. I know that the dolls come to life in Small World, and I haven't read it quite yet, but I always think about that as we're in there. Like, are they going to attack me? So,
and that's actually kind of a scary scene in the books. The books are great. If you haven't read the books, I highly suggest them. Kingdom Keeper series, go find them. They're all over the place. And it's a nice shot of being in the parks without actually being in the parks.
And actually, if you have a Costco membership, you might be able to find the set of books there still. I saw a set of books. So, but my further point that I wanted to make with this information about Animal Kingdom and Tiana is that we have a new park opening on the other side of town next year.
Yeah,
And
that's happening.
Iger in the shareholder meeting yesterday was even asked, what are you going to do? And he said, we've known about it for a decade. We've been doing it. And I bring this up because I had a conversation with another podcast on the show a while back. And they said they have to have a fifth park. And Mikhailo has argued with me that the fifth park is coming. He has some inside information that says it's coming. I don't know that it is. Look at what they're doing with Animal Kingdom. Look at the information still trickling out about Beyond Big Thunder. That's going to add capacity to these parks, right? Like, yes, we had Magic Kingdom shut down park hopping today. That's how busy it is this week. And yes, we have a crowding problem. I don't think Disney cares. I don't think Disney is worried about it as much as we are. And I think the answer to Epic Universe is expanding the parks because it's cheaper than building an entire new park.
So here's my thought on it. Disney and the park down the street, they do two different things. Disney is about telling stories and immersion and having, the magic of things, right? Having that magical moments where you walk around the corner and you see the castle all lit up, or even the customer service, right, where you lose a pin and they get you a free pin or whatever, right? Yes, it is the dark park. Thank you, Matthew. And to my understanding, and I haven't been to the Forbidden Lands in a while. That's a little bit more thrill ridey, and I have no problem with thrill rides. I do, but I don't, because do you, right? I prefer going to seeing the magic and the storytelling and the immersion and the Imagineers doing their thing and all of that firing and all the levels. I would much rather see Tiana in waving and being part of Tiana's Bayou Adventure rather than seeing a Transformer. But that's me, right? So here's what I think Disney does. I think Disney does that very well. And I think Universal does their thing very well. And those two things are different. And we're allowed to live in a world where those two things can coexist. And I think it benefits everybody. Yeah, I think, Disney's probably going to. Here's the thing: when Epic Universe opens, we all go to Disney, and we'll be fine. We'll get on Space Mountain over and over again, right?
Opening day of Epic Universe is going to be perfect at Disney, right?
Exactly. Call your travel agent now. So, but then it'll balance out, and then Disney will come up with something. Okay, did you go to Hogwarts? Have you been? I have not
been. I have not been to Universal since 1995. So
that's amazing. So okay, my oldest was a Harry Potter fanatic, right? We went to Hogwarts. We had an okay time. It was whatever. Then Disney opened Star Wars Batuu down the road, right? And they said, "Hold my green milk." It's two different things.
It really is. Yeah. I got to bring Matt's comments in here because he's given us a couple of things to talk about. The first one I see is I'd pay more if they reduced capacity. And I don't know if he means that in jest, but that's an interesting thought, right? Like, if there's a fifth park, are you willing to pay extra because now you have to pay for that fifth park? That's an interesting thought. And along that same lines, he said he's hoping that Epic Universe draws some people from Disney to lessen the crowds. And
Which,
you know, as you alluded to, Stuart, I think that's going to happen initially,
mm-hmm,
but it's going to
mm-hmm,
even out again.
mm-hmm. You know, I don't know what the answer is, and unfortunately, we live in a world that doesn't have all the answers laid out in a book, right? So
Right.
they don't know what the answer is either. All you can do as a business owner, and we're not talking like they are. All you can do is try to be better than yourself yesterday, and try to do better than you did yesterday. And speaking of the shareholders meeting, I think that is a thing that Disney's aware of, because they, kept all of the same board. None of the board got kicked off, right? So Bob Iger's still in control, and he still has a plan. And I am sure that man has a plan from now until 2050, 2070, 2080. Like they've got to have another 100 years planned out, at least somewhat. And let's be honest, they know more about running those types of parks than anybody else. so they have to know what they're doing.
Well, and they do. And I know they've acquired some extra land so that
Mm-hmm.
they could expand into a fifth park. But we haven't seen any bulldozers yet. So
I've never had a chance to say this in a forum like this. I don't think there's going to be a fifth park. Not until there's some intellectual property reason to do it, right? You At this moment in time, you can fit all of their IP into one of those parks somewhere. You may have to twist it, you may have to turn it, you may have to, fiddle with it a little bit. But there's no IP that demands it be in its own little, 47-acre area, right? Or whatever it is.
right.
So until that happens, they're going to expand, right? Now there may be a park that is a little bit different or whatever, but then it's just going to feel like a money grab, and I don't think we would like that either.
Yes, I agree. And I have two more thoughts on that, and we'll move into finally retheming. But so the first one is they broke the mold with Tron. You
Mm-hmm.
can put things outside the berm,
Mm-hmm.
right? So with that, they've already started talking about Beyond Big Thunder. They've got space over there to do some work
Mm-hmm.
now. And that increases capacity. Going back to Matt's point of paying more, you betcha your Magic Kingdom ticket's going to be over 200 pretty soon. It's already 185 to 190.
Yeah.
So the other piece that I always like to go back to in these conversations of Disney versus Universal, they're fighting each other. Universal is almost dead and they got Harry Potter, and now they're fighting. Disney and Universal are going at it, and you and I are the winners here, because
Mm-hmm.
no matter what they do, they're trying to beat the
Mm-hmm.
other guy and we're winning, and I'm loving
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, good conversation. I like that. I love having conversations like that. But Tom Sawyer Island. Now, I keep saying Sawyer because I believe it's not Sawyer's Island. I don't think it belongs to him. I think it's his island that is named. It's an island named of him.
For Tom's named of
For
him.
Tom Sawyer, yes.
Okay,
All right.
so go ahead.
Yeah. All right. We like to do these things on this show where we take an attraction and redo it. So my first thought is we're in Frontierland. Let's blow out Country Bears, give them their own island. I think it'd be a lot of fun to meet more of the family. They could have their own shack, like Aunt Polly's, like that's where they could be having I don't know, the family living in their house right there. Maybe there's food they're serving you. And I think the cave system obviously lends well to bears, right? You're going to have to get rid of the
Mhm.
fort in the back, but I think you can really do some good back there. Now, this is not my main idea. This is just my first idea. How about you,
Okay.
Stuart? What are you thinking?
Uh, hmm. Well, my first thought was the whole reason Tom Sawyer Island existed, and I apologize if I'm breaking your format. My brain went overboard on this. My first thought on this was, Tom Sawyer was to Minecraft or whatever the kids are into these days
Fortnite.
to Fortnite to Walt as Fortnite or Minecraft or all that is to the kids today, right? So Tom Sawyer was his escape. And so when you think about like retheming it, you got to keep it, my opinion is you have to keep it in sort of that frontier old west type of thing, Missouri of type of area, right? You can't I don't want to see the Avengers there. I don't want to see a ride system at all. Period. There. I don't want to wait in a
Okay.
line on Tom Sawyer Island, right? Wait in a line to get there, but then explore and see, find the whole thing.
Sure.
So that's what I want. I love the idea of Country Bear Jamboree. I love the idea of the Country Bears going on vacation to this island that they've had in their house, in their family for generations, right? And this is where the Country Bears escape the big city life of
Of the Magic Kingdom.
Marceline, Missouri, right? I love
Right.
that idea. But I still don't want I retheme it all you want. Don't put an attraction on it. Just put a walkthrough. That's what I want.
And I would agree with that. Every park, and I've said this a few times, where kids have two types of energy. They have their I got to be good for mom and dad energy, and then they also have the wiggle energy, as I call it. So they need an outlet for that wiggle energy. And if you pay attention to the parks, there is a playground of some sort in every park, and Tom Sawyer Island is that playground. There's plenty of discovering and exploring to do over there, and it gives kids that chance to expend that energy and not have to listen to mom, right? Like when I took my kids over there one time, and we sat down at Aunt Polly's in those rocking chairs, my wife and I did, and it was the middle of spring break. There was tons of people, and we just watched the people across the river just going by and all the business, right? And we said, go ahead, kids. The only thing you can't do is get onto the raft. Right.
Exactly.
And they went, and
Exactly.
they took one of our phones and recorded themselves going across the barrel bridges, like they had a blast because they didn't have to listen to mom and dad, and that's what they need. They need places like that. Right. So to your point, it definitely needs to stay a playground. And that's where, and this is where I'm really stretching it here because we're in Frontierland, right? And I'm messing with the timeline at this point. But if you can put Tiana in Splash Mountain next to Big Thunder Mountain and Picos Bills, we can put Rapunzel on this island. And here's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Tower goes in the back in place of the fort. Okay. Snuggly duckling up front. Parents can have their drink. I know we're not supposed to drink in the Magic Kingdom, but it's already been broken, so why not add another spot? We're having a drink. You can't take it on the raft with you. There you go. But you have the snuggly duckling up front, tower in the back. In the middle is that space where she first comes out of the tower. And remember that montage where she's just losing her mind because she's, oh my gosh, I'm going against Mother Gothel. Oh my gosh, I'm free. I get to go do all this stuff. She swings on her hair. Think of the swings we're going to be putting up of hair. Okay. Like, I'm loving it. Green meadows, flowers everywhere, fake or real, I don't care. But create these things, the rocks that the kids can climb on,
Mhm.
the things that Rapunzel was experiencing and enjoying and learning about as she first came out of the tower, right? Throw that all in there.
Right.
That's the path from the tower to the Snuggly Duckling, right?
I love it.
And
I love it.
I think it
That's
would
great.
be awesome. I'm getting rid of the raft too. We're putting in a canoe. We're putting in canoes.
Oh, you're going back
Yeah.
to the Mike Fink canoe boats.
Not
I couldn't remember.
necessarily. We need to put more people on it, but it doesn't have to
Right.
look like a raft. It needs to look like a Rapunzel canoe.
With a frying pan as the oar. There you
There
go.
you go.
A frying pan as an yes.
Let's bring Matthew in here. They need to bring some live entertainment there. Bring Tom Sawyer back on the island. You could even have others like Davy Crockett. I think that'd be interesting.
Well, like I said, part of the you originally had those walk around characters, and that's important, I think, for a place like that to survive, where you have the interaction between the kids and these real life heroes. The other thing I would love to see there is a little bit more of discovery, right? They have a few signs and there's a few things, right? Whatever, but you could bring in some STEM activities. You could bring in some panning for gold things. If you're going to keep it Tom Sawyer, if you're going to go Rapunzel, I don't know how to do some of that, but the idea of having more educational type of things, edutainment type of things, I think would go over really well in a situation like that.
That would be interesting. Mikhailo, jumping in here. Good to see you, buddy. Thanks for tuning in while I'm doing this. Are we going to have a sing and dance show at the Snuggly Duckling? I think that's a tremendous idea.
Only if Mikhailo is the opening act.
You never know with that guy what he might end up doing, right? But I think that's great. That would be awesome to have a sing and dance show at the Snuggly Duckling. It goes to that entertainment piece. It gives more discovery. It fits with all of it. I think that would be incredible to have that. Think of how busy the island would be.
Yeah. Again, it goes back to my concern of having this be a place of, and I know that's not necessarily what this is all about, but having this be a place of like rest and relaxation, right? I don't like, the whole reason I don't want to ride there is because I don't want to be standing in line to go on an attraction that's going to be 5 seconds. I want the kids to be able to like go up and explore all these places. Now, that all being said, I would be all in for a Sherwood Forest, Robin Hood, Tournament of the Golden Arrow type of thing, where, maybe there's some sort of live bow and arrow contest in the back. That I could get behind.
That would be very cool. I think Robin Hood would fit in there better than Rapunzel. I'm looking for an IP that's going to stick right now.
Yeah,
everyone wants Rapunzel to have her own place, have a good place to be, and
the bathrooms just aren't cutting it, are they?
It's just not enough, right? I think this would be a very good thing for it. And to your point of the island, one thing about people aren't using the island.
No.
The busiest of days, there's people not going over there. And it would increase capacity to have something more interesting to people.
Yeah. So why do you think people aren't going over
there? Because there isn't an attraction, a proper attraction attached to it.
I also think you can have don't they have walkthrough attractions in like Hong Kong and Shanghai and Tokyo that that are not rides, but that they tell a story and have a through line. I think you could absolutely do something like that there.
You could. I think they had something with Marvel out there at one of those parks. I remember hearing about, and we've got Moana Journey of Water in Epcot now, which is kind of the same idea where it's just kind of a walk-through discovery type of thing. So you definitely can keep doing that. Like I said, you got to have that playground for the kids.
Right, exactly. Now, I am all for having a libation over there, and I think that is a good idea. You should write that one down and give that to Bob Iger next time you see him.
Yeah. I'll just, whenever I'm in the neighborhood, right?
Right.
So one last idea I had, I ran this past my wife, Tammy, before the show, and she said, I don't know how well it would fit with the timeline. Again, we're shoehorning Tiana into the timeline. We can do this.
Well, okay.
Come on, Stuart. Just bear with me here. Raya and the Last Dragon, I think, would fit over there pretty well because there's so much exploring and discovery going on in that show or that movie, and there's caves that they have to go through. I really think that you can make it work over there.
And I know I just said, Walt's sort of history and childhood was Tom Sawyer and Old West and all that sort of stuff. And I know I just said that. But I could get behind more inclusion in something like that if it was Raya, or if it was Mulan, or if it was something that wasn't just American Midwest, American Western frontier. The reason Tiana works is because Louisiana is, on the frontier. And New Orleans is a frontier place, or at least was. It's not now, but the only frontier we have now is, the internet. So it's like, so I as much as I'd want to keep something like that, keep that Adventureland and Frontierland and those types of, places, I also think moving forward, you need something that's a little bit more inclusive, and I'm all for it.
I can understand that too. Yeah. And I think, like you said, Raya, Mulan, all those good things would fit in there well. And, I think it's good to keep the Frontierland piece and the Adventureland piece involved in these castle parks, if you would, because we need to remember our history, but at the same time, as much, for you, lack of a better word, for much crap as I'm giving Tiana for being shoehorned in there, like, it makes sense. Like, you got to have relevant things to keep people coming. I'll tell you what, I've been to Disney World twice now since Tron has opened. How many times have I been on the ride? I have not gone on it because I don't care.
Really?
I mean, yes, it's an advanced ride system, right? But at the end of the day, I don't know Tron that well. I've tried watching it this day and age, and it's hard.
I mean, the story is okay, but it's not great. I mean, it's not horrible. Let me put it that way. But it is kind of dense and is kind of hard to work around, and you do have to, work to watch it. I think Tron Legacy is a little bit easier, and then the TV show, I forget the name of, was pretty good too. But that's kind of what I was talking about, the difference between Universal and Disney, right? Universal, that is you could push that right over across the street and it would fit really nicely. You can't push Splash Mountain across the street or Tiana's Bayou Adventure across the street anymore. It would not fit nicely. I think one of the best examples of the melding of that is across the river from Tom Sawyer Island, and that's Big Thunder Mountain. I love Big Thunder Mountain, but I love Big Thunder Mountain because it's a thrill ride that has a ton of theming on top of it. And I think that's where Big Thunder Mountain succeeds. I mean, the same with, you take Song of the South out of Splash Mountain, you had a very interesting ride mechanic. Song of the South has its own set of issues that don't need to be talked about in this. And so retheming Splash Mountain into Tiana's Bayou Adventure, I think is actually a very wise decision. I don't want to necessarily forget our past, but Song of the South has problematic and probably shouldn't have been made at the time, much less thought about nowadays. So there's all of those considerations.
Well, and I mean, it's and that's been debated plenty of.
Yeah, that's not
right. I agree though that having the inclusion and making things more relevant and less problematic is very much a thing that we need to do. So, totally agree on that.
So how about this? Tom Sawyer Island converts to something dealing with the SEA. Anything dealing with the side of Explorers and Adventures.
Yes, please.
It doesn't matter. They could just put the label on the thing and it'd be that. That would be amazing.
Yes. Although the neat thing about the SEA is that it's just kind of tossed into these different rides, and connects them together. And being a regular guest at the park, you don't see it. But for the nerds and us, to put it as an actual thing, would that water it down?
Right.
Kylo says, yes, please.
Yes. Okay.
Bring it.
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think, so the other way to go, and this is a big conversation amongst the Disney people, is to do new IP or to do, to bring in something that's already established. And so we've tossed around these ideas of, Robin Hood or Rapunzel or Raya or all of these. But I might suggest, if I had Bob Iger here, to do something
He's just
brand
next door,
new,
isn't he?
right? He's just down the street, right? To do something brand new, to do something that is, based on a brand new type of character or something like that, and then you make a movie out of that, or you do a book series out of that, or something to get the different types of media. Because unfortunately, the reason people are going back to, the reason Tiana's Bayou Adventure became Splash Mountain, or Splash Mountain became Tiana's Bayou Adventure, was because Tiana was such a hit, right? Princess and the Frog was such an amazing movie. And there needed to be something in the parks establishing that as a draw for people who love Tiana. So I get it, but at the same time, put something new there, put something different there.
I agree. And so if you were to use SEA on the island, that would be terrific because, like you said, it gives them an IP that's kind of established that brings together this entire storyline that we've been uncovering, right? And then they can do the pirates thing and turn it into a movie. I love that idea. I think that's great.
But I still want the Terminator Golden Arrow in the back. That's a non-negotiable.
All right. So it'll be Rapunzel, SEA, whatever, and a tournament of the Golden Arrow in the back. All right.
The whole time singing the song that
Oodalali?
John's Oodalali's fine. Yeah, that'd work.
No. All right. Stuart, thanks so much
No
for
problem.
coming on the show and talking about all these awesome things with me. It's been a lot of fun.
Yes, it has been. And I'm glad you called. And I appreciate that. And anytime we need to do this again, let me know.
Hey, anytime. Yeah, it'll be great to have you.
Yeah.
Where can we find you? Give us all the deets.
You can Google these two things right here. Whatever. You can Google me and welcome to Level 7 and you'll find me. I'm all over the internet. If you find the chef from Vancouver, that's not me, but pretty much anything else is me. And we do like I said, some co-hosts and I do a Welcome to Level 7, which is anything in the MCU are now whatever that encompasses. And so we're slowly working through Loki as we speak. And sometimes there's some other stuff in there. And you can find that at Welcome to Level 7, where the 7 is spelled out.com.
Perfect. And I would like to invite all of you watching on YouTube to like and subscribe. Make sure you let everyone know that we're on this grand platform of YouTube. And also join us on Facebook and Instagram. We'd love to have you come out there and let us know your thoughts on what to do with Tom Sawyer Island. It's a great spot, and I'd love to hear your ideas on it. So, Stuart, again, thank you very much. But that's all we've got this week. So as we like to say, some live close, but others don't. So let's talk about it. We'll see you next time on Miles from Main Street.